Let's talk about Jim Simons. This guy's a total trip, right? Math, finance, philanthropy, he did it all. You probably know him as the founder of Renaissance Technologies. You know, that super secretive hedge fund that makes a killing with its quant investing strategy. But his story, oh man, it goes way deeper. Before Wall Street even entered the picture, Simons was already a math superstar. I mean, we're talking PhD from Berkeley at 23. In the 60s, he was deciphering codes and patterns for the National Security Agency. He even chaired the math department at Stony Brook University. But hold on, here's where things take a turn. In 1978, he decides to jump into finance and founds a hedge fund management firm. And guess what? It wasn't on Wall Street. No, this is in a Long Island strip mall. They started as Monometrics. But you probably know them as Renaissance Technologies, right? Now, this wasn't your typical Wall Street firm. You know, guys in suits yelling buy and sell orders. Simons wanted something different. He brought in all these unconventional thinkers, mathematicians, physicists, signal processing experts, anyone who could find the hidden patterns in the financial data.
And that's kind of how quant investing was born, using these crazy complex mathematical models and algorithms to make trading decisions. And you know what? It worked. I mean, really worked. Their medallion fund, over $100 billion in trading profits since 1988. That's an average annual return of 39.1% after fees. The S&P 500 only averaged about 10.7% over that same period. Pretty insane, right? So how do they do it? Well, they keep their methods top secret, of course. But we know they're all about finding those tiny market inefficiencies that everyone else misses. It's not about predicting the next Apple or Amazon. It's about those subtle patterns in the data that give them an edge. Simons himself once said, "We're right 50.75% of the time, but we're 100% right 50.75% of the time. You can make billions that way." So it's not about always being right. It's about consistently using those small advantages over a long period of time. The Medallion Fund's success really took off in 1989. That's when Ellen Burlekamp joined the team. He was a mathematical genius, specialized in coding theory, got a fresh perspective to their algorithms. He introduced the Kelly criterion to their trading strategy, which basically is a mathematical principle for maximizing the expected value of the logarithm of wealth. Sounds complicated, right? But it's all about figuring out the perfect size for your bets. That way you can maximize your winnings over time. And you know what? That year, the Medallion Fund saw a 59% return, and from then on, they consistently yielded over 20% annually, except for 2022, when it returned 18%. Then, in 1993, Simons brought in two more big names from IBM, Bob Mercer and Peter Brown, experts in speech recognition technology. You might think, what does that have to do with finance? But trust me, they brought a whole new set of skills to the table. They helped build a cutting-edge trading system that integrated all of Renaissance Technologies' trading signals and portfolio requirements. And that marked the beginning of an even more remarkable period of performance for the firm. Now, we can't talk about Renaissance Technologies without mentioning their crazy data operation. They built this massive infrastructure that collects data on practically everything: prices, weather patterns, news events, you name it. They are constantly refining their models, adding new data sources, and tweaking their algorithms. It's like one giant, ever-evolving math problem. And even their company culture is different. They have this no-interference policy, meaning that once the algorithms are set, no one, not even Simons himself, can override them. That's some serious trust in the math, right? They also emphasize collaboration and knowledge sharing, which, makes sense when you're dealing with such complex concepts. But all this secrecy, this focus on data, well, it's caused some controversy too. Some people find Renaissance Technologies' operations a bit too opaque. They've even questioned their tax practices. In fact, back in 2014, Simons and the firm were investigated by the U.S. Senate, apparently for using these complex financial instruments to avoid paying billions in taxes. And then there's the question of whether their success can last. Some critics argue that with more firms adopting quant investing, the very market inefficiencies that Renaissance Technologies relies on might disappear, making it harder to maintain those incredible returns. But you know what? Let's switch gears for a second. Let's talk about Simons' impact outside of finance, because he and his wife, Marilyn, they've been incredibly generous philanthropists. They've poured resources into supporting basic scientific research, autism research, and math education. And remember the Simons Foundation. Well, it's become a major player in the scientific community. They fund research in fields like mathematics, physics, astrophysics, and bioscience. They've also committed a ton of resources to autism research through the Simons Foundation Autism Research Initiative, or SFR. And then there's Math for America, a nonprofit Simons started to improve math education in public schools across the U.S. Their goal is to attract and train a new generation of great math teachers. Simons was also a huge benefactor to his alma maters, MIT and UC Berkeley. He even donated $60 million to Berkeley to establish the Simons Institute for the Theory of Computing. Talk about giving back.
Sadly, Jim Simons passed away in May 2024 at the age of 86, leaving behind an extraordinary legacy. He was this brilliant mathematician who pushed the boundaries of his field, a visionary investor who revolutionized Wall Street, and an incredibly generous philanthropist who really made a difference. His story shows you that you don't have to stick to just one path in life. You can be a groundbreaking academic, a wildly successful entrepreneur, and a dedicated philanthropist all at the same time. If there's one thing we can learn from Jim Simons' life, it's that following your curiosity can lead you to incredible places. I mean, who would have thought that a mathematician with a passion for code breaking would end up transforming finance and then dedicating his fortune to scientific discovery? So what stands out to you most about Jim Simons' story? Is it his success in the financial markets, his groundbreaking work in mathematics, or maybe his dedication to giving back? Whatever it is, I think we can all agree that Jim Simons was a true original, a man who saw the world differently and wasn't afraid to challenge the norm. His impact will continue to be felt for generations to come. And if you're as fascinated by Jim Simons as I am, I highly recommend checking out The Man Who Solved the Market by Gregory Zuckerman. It's a really captivating look inside Renaissance technologies and the man behind it all. But even Renaissance technologies, they're not perfect. Remember 2022, when the Medallion Fund only returned 18%? Turns out even the best algorithms, they could be thrown off by stuff like, a pandemic or a war. But for Simons, success wasn't just about the money. He wanted to use his wealth to make a difference. That's where his philanthropy comes in. The Simons Foundation, he started with his wife, Marilyn, back in 1994. It's become a huge force in scientific funding. Billions of dollars poured into research. Math, physics, astrophysics, bioscience. They focus on fundamental research, the kind that doesn't always get funded. One of their most important initiatives, the Simons Foundation Autism Research Initiative, SFRI, understanding the genetics and biology of autism to develop better diagnoses and treatments. And it wasn't just about established scientists for Simons. He really cared about the next generation of mathematicians. That's why he started Math for America, this nonprofit to attract and train talented math teachers for public schools. The idea being, if we improve math education early on, we can inspire more young people to go into STEM. He gave back to his own roots, too. Big donations to MIT and UC Berkeley, $60 million to Berkeley, helped create the Simons Institute for the Theory of Computing, a leading research center in computer science. So when we look back at Jim Simons, he was way more than just a math genius or a successful investor. He was a visionary, blended these different worlds, used his talents to make a real impact. If you want to learn more about him, check out The Man Who Solved the Market by Gregory Zuckerman. Fascinating look inside Renaissance technologies and the mind of the man who made it all happen. So that's it for our look at Jim Simons. Really fascinating guy, right? If you enjoyed this, hit that subscribe button for more stories like this. Until next time, keep those brain cells firing and stay curious.